Uh, Hello, I hear some static. Who's on the session? Ooh, I see a video. I see the top of a head of a video.
Yeah, that's me, Jerry. I didn't know if I had to do.
Mike,
how's it going?
You look better on camera, actually.
Should I?
Yeah, you can turn
video.
You can turn your video off if you want. You know how to do that? I can do it for you. All right. Can you hear us still?
Yes.
All right. So we have about 10 people so far. We're going to give a few more minutes. Then I'm going to do a poll. So, Mr. Hughes, can you hear us? Dan Hughes? He hasn't joined yet. So I hear someone background. All right, let's do a poll. Anybody bold enough to say hi? Introduce yourself.
I'm Mike out here in Portland, Oregon.
Hello, Mike. How's the weather out in Portland today?
Today it's sunny, Jerry. You know,
right.
Out here we face a lot of rain and challenges, but this week and today is sunny, so I'm happy about that.
All right. Yeah, you had a tough winter out there.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Who else? Who's bold enough to say hi? You don't have to.
Dan Hughes just checked in.
I don't think I know you, Dan. Where are you from?
I am from Champion's Choice in Boston.
I thought you might have some problems logging in or something. Thanks again for doing this today.
Yeah, I figure if you can do it, anybody can. So, yeah, there's not a high bar here.
All right. Well, no, you're on the login, you're on the call-in, right? Not the meeting.
Yeah, I'm just on the call-in. Right. I don't have a microphone, which is good.
Right. So for those who've actually logged in and are viewing, it's our secret that I just put up this slide on the.
Yeah. I hope you don't have that picture of me in high school.
No, it's actually, I was thinking of doing that actually. It's a picture of your best friend, Tom Brady, sitting on the field after the last loss. And it was really sad, actually. So.
Yeah. It's not after the Atlanta game, though, is it?
Oh, it's not. I know.
I know which game it's not after.
All right, we're going to get started in about 30 seconds. So far, we've got over 20 people, and I'm with over 35 RSVP'd. So we're going to give a chance for anyone who's having a hard time logging in. So if anybody else wants to say hi, they're more than welcome to. You don't have to again. Mike, you already said hi. Thank you for doing that. Mike Trin.
Yeah.
Banner Athletics. Anybody else out there?
Heidelbrook.
Oh, yes. The whole gang is here, right?
Yes.
Well, welcome. Thanks for showing interest in this.
Thank you. This will be interesting.
So, well, no, it's Dan from Championship. All right. Well, let's get started. People will join as we go. So if you don't mind, Dan, first of all, thank you once again, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, for willing to do this. Dan and I have been chatting. We've known each other, what, 5 years now? It's been a long time.
At least, yeah.
He and I chat quite often. And it's amazing how often that when we chat, it's very little to do with technology. Which is more in line with whoever's making noise. Mute your audio if you could. All right. So anyway, headline on today is real simple. We are asked to talk to a lot of clients on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. About 70–80% of the questions we get, very frankly, very candidly, don't have a lot to do with TUO or online ordering. General business questions. How do I sell? How do I promote the fact that I'm offering online ordering? So long story short, we thought today we would do something different, which is let somebody who has actually sat in your chair. We were introduced to the Champions Choice folks right about the time those folks who are now currently engaged with Team Uniform Orders were just getting involved in the business. So I said, you know what, Dan? Let's create a forum where you can tell your story. You can go through the last 5 or 6 years. How is it on the screen for those that can see? Champions Choice just moved into a beautiful facility. Was that about 7–8 months ago, Dan?
Yeah, but actually a year this month. Yeah, it went by that quickly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
So, a picture of your beautiful building. What we want to do is create a forum for you to tell your story, and actually, if you don't mind, allow us to ask a few questions as you go.
Sure.
Everyone on this call wants to know what you know, wants to know what you've experienced, wants to know not that there is a or the secrets, but what observations can you share? So we'll start by asking a real simple question. You went about online ordering about 6 or 7 years ago, right?
Actually, a little longer even, yeah.
Yeah, you were one of the first to dive in. So if you could, give us a little bit of a story for the next couple minutes on, go back to that point in time, what Champions Choice decided, and how you were able to actually do what you've done in the last 7 years.
I'll give you a quick segue too into that. So, my background might be a little bit different. I'm sorry?
We have a lot of people on, so you're going to hear a lot of background noise.
Yeah, that's fine. So anyway, my background would be a little bit different from that perspective. So I started my career, actually, full disclosure, I have a degree in phys ed. And I was a high school coach, but I kind of transitioned into the business world when we had a tax cutting measure called Proposition 2.5 here in Massachusetts. So I didn't have a whole lot of skills I didn't figure, so I had to figure out something to do. So I got into a sales role, and mostly in communications and software. So, I kind of worked my way through that. And at one point I was in charge of sales training at AT&T out in Colorado. And most of my other positions were senior sales management positions in the software world. So I already had kind of an affinity for going online. I wasn't really adverse to that, and I had a pretty good idea how that all worked. So it gave us a little bit of a head start. So, but when I first came here, I had no background in doing this business. I've always been involved in sports. Both my boys were Division I college baseball players, and I had coached sports my whole life, but I had never really done anything in this world. So when I came on board, I kind of took the software model and said, we're going to do this from the top down instead of the bottom up. So the traditional model, and what the guy that started this company was doing as well, was selling a team at a time. Well, I knew that wasn't a scalable business, and also we were far from the prettiest girl at the dance, right? Because we were selling Adidas. We were aligned with Adidas, and that's really the product line we were aligned with. Now it's a little bit different, obviously, because Adidas is taken off. But given the fact that we had Adidas, we were the number 2 brand, quickly on our way to number 3. Under Armour kind of came in and took that spot for a while. Now Under Armour is what it is. But I knew we couldn't win doing a traditional sales model. So one of the things that we initially did was say, well, we got to have a different model. One of the things was sell from the top down. It sounds good, but if you're going to really make that commitment to do that, that means you've got to have a back end process that supports that too. And you have to have the discipline not to chase all the random things. So, and we have a much different account management format and things like that I'm happy to address as we go through this. But we're doing this with 115 accounts, but every one of them we have under agreement, and every one of them buys everything from us. So we got from being a corner store, literally started out of this guy's basement to a corner store to a building of about 7,000 square feet to the one you see today. We got there by capturing all the revenue. But one of the things that we found, and back to Jerry's point, this kind of circle back to Jerry's question, one of the things we found is how do you capture all the revenue? And obviously the way that we started capturing way more revenue was via using what at the time was a company called RTG. RTG could not meet our needs. We kind of blew through them. And number 2, one of the questions Jerry had asked me earlier was the biggest obstacle. One of our biggest obstacles is growth. Really was picking the right vendor. I'm not doing this as a commercial for Jerry because if it wasn't good, we wouldn't mind it at all. So but we wouldn't be doing it. I'd be honest with you. Look, I like Jerry probably as much as anybody does. And but in reality, well, the same of your wife does. But but we wouldn't be with them. And one of the things that they've been able to do is help us evolve. And the platform they're on and all those kind of things. We had our speed to market was really slow with RTG. They couldn't manage the flow. We're doing a couple of thousand websites a year, so they couldn't possibly keep up with that. So that was one of the biggest obstacles we faced. But
so let me, if you don't mind, I'm going to for those that weren't aware. Yeah. Champion's Choice was one of the first to make a strategic decision that online was where it was going. So on top of the top-down approach, capture every purchase from every organization, signing long-term contracts. And especially going back 7 years ago, one of the most, I think, amazing decisions that you got behind, not to make it, but to make it work, was to say, we're going online. So for those who don't know, RTG was one of the early providers of online ordering going back 10, 15 years ago. Unfortunately, that company no longer exists in its current format. So you worked with them for about a year or two, right?
Even longer, probably. Yeah. It was probably closer to 4 or 5 in reality.
Oh, okay.
So we were there, and it was a homegrown system. It was a whole bunch of stuff that it didn't work. But I think the real key, if you ask me, Jerry had asked me what's the fundamental decision that we made. The fundamental decision we made was even prior to that, and this kind of drove us to be able to capture more orders. But the fundamental decision we made was stop selling products. If you ask us what we sell, and you ask anybody and what we do, we sell a service wrapper, and you're either set up as a business that way or you're not. And I knew we couldn't succeed selling the number 2 and number 3 brand, throwing product for product on a table. We don't talk about product. We don't sell product. What we sell is a kind of this vision is the vision to get what you want, which means no problems, get the stuff on time, get it right, and then manage it accordingly. So, if you're not set up that way, it's, I'm not telling you how to run your business. Everybody runs their business, however they see fit, and what works for you works for you. But I can tell you, we scaled our business probably faster than anybody at that point had ever done, because we took a different approach. So
let's, if you don't mind, let's share, in general terms, that story you told me, where how hard it was for you to convince the current members of your team to not walk into a meeting with products, with catalogs.
Well, they want to walk with products and catalogs, and frankly, and I'm sure some of you have people that report to you too, that if I take the rack away, I take the catalog away, they probably don't have a lot to say.
That's right.
So we flipped the model to understanding where their issues lie, by just drilling down with questions, and it's not hard to figure out the issues and concerns they have with whoever their current vendor is. And and I already knew that anyway. It wasn't difficult. I went in, and how I did it was I look at who's the crappiest vendors in our area, who has the worst reputation for customer service, call all their accounts, and every one of them wants to meet with you because they're already not getting treated properly. So it wasn't that difficult to get meetings. And then kind of flipped it from here's the stuff we sell to here's what we do, here's how we do it, here's how it alleviates the issues you currently have. And you know what? No one ever asks us, frankly, honest to God, they don't ask us about price. They don't ask us about what the product is. They don't ask us about those things. We got by those things because I don't want to talk about the product then. I do now, but I didn't want to talk about the product then because Nike was going to win every time. We had we were never going to beat them ever, 0 times. If it was product, we lost every time.
Because of the ubiquity of all those brands, that's not a differentiator for your company.
It is not, correct. And we're in the commodity business, all of us, right? Everybody in this call is in the commodity business, and I'm sure you're all aligned with different, whether it's Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, or if you're just selling, you're in a buying group and selling whatever you can sell. But we're all aligned with somebody. But if people feel like there's a path to getting what they want, it's secondary how much it is. If that wasn't true, you wouldn't see premium vendors. There wouldn't be, Mercedes and Infinity and all the premium vendors. They wouldn't be in business if everybody driving around in a Hyundai that costs $9,000 otherwise. And I know that's kind of cliche, but it's really a true story. So it's what the value is of what you're offering. And we're offering, account management model. We don't have salespeople. None of the people who manage accounts have new sales responsibility. You'd have to, and I'm not telling you how to flip your format or do it, but if you want to be in a real account, if you want to be a high-level customer service business provider, then the only way to do that is to have real account managers that manage accounts that really know what's going on and can manage through the process and capture revenue from all the teams.
That, too, was actually a very controversial move going back 5, 6, 7 years ago. Every organization
years,
wants
right.
to set up. I'm not indicting anybody on this call.
Right.
You want to set it up with 15, 20, 30 different independent reps who have to go out and, hunt to bring you home their food.
Right.
You, with your sales background, came in and said, you know what? We're going to let the pros at the top who really know how to sell, who sell service, not product. We're going to let them do what they do best. We're going to build a supporting team that can actually allow you to justify the statement that you make and prove to your clients every day. We are
Right.
the best service organization on the Northeast, if not the United States.
So our model is basically, I get us through the contract phase, and and it's a variety of people. Whether it's college, I try to get to who the CFO is, or VP of Finance of the college, because then he's going to drill down those questions to the AD, and it's worked well. I get above them, get the kind of questions that ADs, they're getting better at it because it's a much more business oriented person now in the AD role than even 10 years ago, where it's much more sports oriented person. But if I can get to that person, I'm usually going to win because I can talk that language with that person. But the lowest I'll ever talk to anybody is at the AD level.
Right.
I'm not talking to coaches. Coaches don't make decisions. They couldn't buy a waste paper basket without someone telling them to. So, and they're not going to make a macro decision for the school or whoever it happens to be. And we're lucky here in Boston. This is a much different area than probably where most of you are. There's 1 million colleges in the Boston area,
Yeah.
and there's 256 prep schools that probably have bigger budgets than a lot of your colleges do. So those became really my targets, and it's a little bit different environment. But you're also up against a much different competitive environment because everybody's here too, because they know there's a proliferation of colleges, so everybody wants to be here. And we're up just like you guys. BSN's, they're really after us because they've literally they're 0 for lifetime against us. They've never beaten us once, 0 times. They have none of our accounts. We have all of theirs. But and as long as it goes this way, but bottom line is now they're trying to buy accounts, and
right.
I'm sure they're doing the same thing with you guys. They're out offering some of our schools $100,000 up front, which is insane. So, and I told one of our schools the other day, if we don't make any revenue, there's no business. There's no business. There is no relationship. So, so it really comes down. But, the other reason is if they're offering you that, there's got to be a reason.
Mm-hmm. All right. So take us through, if you don't mind, briefly, what's a typical sales cycle like? How do you find somebody?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, it depends. Initially, it was much different. I was doing one-stop closes because we were the only guys out there. No one, 10 years ago when we started doing this, no one was really out offering agreements below the D1 level. So, for the most part, and that became our model. So now, it's kind of interesting. Now the process is elongated. It depends who it is. I'm onto a new thing now, and that I was sharing with you guys. That I've been spinning really quickly and kind of taking a different route on it. So I've been working with charter schools. We've been closing those things in less than a week.
Wow.
It's an underserved market, and the real gold in them to me, and this is probably, if you get anything out of this today, it's probably, the thing I've uncovered. It's not athletics. What I'm doing is, because the charter schools are all kind of into uniformity, all that kind of stuff. We're selling schools shoes. We're selling 6,000-8,000 pairs of shoes at a time, depending on the size of the school. And we're doing it all online. So I'm capturing the information. I'm getting all the revenue up front. It's helping my cash flow. I'm not delivering these things till September, and I've got their money in June.
Well, that's an important point. Not to dwell too deep on it. You and I have had a lot of conversations over the last couple of years about cash flow. So if you don't mind, spend 30 seconds, a minute on that, if you could. Yeah,
well, as you know, it's the bane of everybody's small business, right? There's no small business in America that doesn't have cash flow issues. One because the way the tax code has been set up till now, where if depending on how you set up as a corporation, if you don't take the money out of your company, you're just going to pay taxes on it. So at the end of every year, you got to suck all the money out, which puts you in a cash flow.
Let's change.
So it puts you in a cash flow issue. But so the net of it is, so we're always looking for ways, and I'm sure you are too. Well, how do I get ahead of it cash flow wise? So we're doing, high school football, college football, all those kinds of things. We're doing those in the May timeframe. I'm collecting all the orders, getting all the cash up front, and then fulfilling them, whenever they report back for, first day of practice kind of stuff. But I think this thing we're on to here with the charter schools, and the charter schools are everywhere. I don't know the proliferation of where everybody's located for charter schools, but I know they're everywhere. No one's paying attention to them. And in the real goal to there is it's not selling most of them don't even have football teams, but it's not selling the football teams. It's selling, get the masses, get the shoes, get a school shoe, get them to agree on it, get the polos, get whatever it is that it happens to be. And it's been a huge win for us. They're all saying yes. They're calling me. Which is always a nice thing.
Three key takeaways from what you just said that I'm going to play back, and then you can correct me otherwise. Number one, longer lead time. So you're going in way before I think a lot of our current clients do, made for a fall period. Number two, you're setting up online stores that are not open very long, right?
No, I can tell you statistically, and I don't, Jerry has better insight, but I can tell you our statistics. After 7 days, a website's open, you hear crickets. You're literally either going to do it or they don't. So to me is, and we have our account managers, give them a call to action, tell them it's going to close in this window. If you don't get your orders in this window, that's tough. Catch you next year. And, no one wants to walk away from revenue, but if you can train them, especially, a lot of our accounts we're on our third 5-year agreement with at this point. So, we've got a pretty good record with them. So it's a little bit, you got to go through the process at some point and kind of train them on it. But in the end, if you have the discipline to say no and walk away from, a small amount of orders, next year you don't have that issue, so. And the other big thing is, and no one's stocking tens of thousands of SKUs in their warehouse. We aren't, we bring in the core products like anybody, and we're booking, a good amount with Adidas every year, but we're not stocking our shelves with 10,000 SKUs. So you always, you mitigate the risk of not being able to get the product because of inventory issues by going with short windows.
So a common question that I hear every day, and it's a common problem in this industry. I just reached out. I closed a deal. I'm going to set up an online store or 4 or 5 or 10 for an entity that I just signed. So I go to the extreme effort to build the store, select the items, get it launched, and then, unfortunately, there's no traffic. So I'm dependent on my client to get behind what we're doing, to route the URL store link to everybody, to promote it. So at least 5, 10, 15 times a week, I'm involved in conversations like that. Jerry, our store was like a billboard on the moon. It was out there, but nobody knew it was there. How do you overcome that? How do you address that?
I mean, we're driving it through whoever the coach is that are directly involved. So, usually, and we've created this relationship. Now, again, we have an account manager that knows these people. Their job, I give them a 10 commandments that you need to know the people. And one of the things is they need to know them by face, by name. They need to work with them, and they know, the coaches know, because we've coached them, that the thing's going to be open for 7 days. You got to get the info out. We're more than willing. The good part about TUO is you can feedback. You can tell them how many orders they have. You can tell them anything you want. So you've got stats in front of you that allow you to give them the information that's going to help them. Yeah, we do some background stuff, but I doubt seriously we get a whole lot of push. We'll put it on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that kind of crap. But it's not. That's not driving. That's not driving. You're not going to drive people to your stores that way. You might, if you're doing like a town-wide thing or a fundraising thing or something like that, you'll certainly supplement it. But if the person who's in charge of whatever that group is, whether football team, basketball, whatever it happens to be, if they're not driving it out there to kids and telling them you got 7 days to get, or whatever amount of days to get your order, then you're never going to win. It won't matter.
So you lead. I'm going to play it back. You lead the process. You lead from the very beginning. You let your client know how it's going to work. You get them on board, and basically, so you manage what they are supposed to do, as opposed to, frankly, not everyone on this call, but we do get involved with situations in which the contact person for our client is taking an order. They position themselves as, I'm just here, you call me anytime and anything you want. I'll add 15 new items. I'll add 400 different colors, and anything that you want. And that never works. No, because it's a disaster. First of all, now it's like you're reading the Bible. You got 6,000 pages to look at. It's never going to happen. All you're going to do is create. Please don't take this wrong, but the average American's not that smart. So, unfortunately, so if you exactly, I told you I got a degree in phys ed, but in reality, you got to dumb it down, because you really do. I mean, MIT is one of our customers, and they're probably not a good, for example, but even we even have issues with them sometimes. So in the end, and those kids could break into that computer in 7 seconds if they felt like it. But but in reality, you got to tell them what to do. Most people want to be told what to do, especially if they don't know what to do.
They want to be told what to do.
Right.
So they might tell you that, but in reality, so we just kind of guide them down the path, right? And, we tell it's not going to work, and I can't tell you how many people I sit there and say, yeah, you can keep it open for 2 weeks. Number one, you're not mitigating any risk of not getting the product, because some of these products are probably not going to be available if you wait 2 weeks. Number two, you're going to hear crickets after 7 days. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. In reality, if they're either going to order it or not. I mean, how long do you need?
Mm-hmm.
Right. How long do you need? You're either going to buy it or not. You're on the team or you're not. It's like, waiting to the last minute to do your term paper. You're either going to do it or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So, so in reality, that strategy has really worked well for us. And, when you guys, and probably everybody's done it, and we have too, you leave them open for 30 days. In the last, 25, you didn't get a single order. And all you did was lose all the inventory you would have had if you had ordered it a week, 3 weeks before.
Right.
So, it doesn't make sense.
Take us through 5 years ago, 7 years ago, no one was asking for online ordering. How important is online ordering as a capability to your sales strategy today?
Oh, it's significant. I mean, obviously, it represents, no school has a giant budget, right? No one is budgeting giant amounts of money for uniforms, and there's certainly, high schools and those things aren't buying, shoes and all that kind of stuff for their teams for the most part. So, that's where we're capturing all our revenue. It'd be a disaster. We'd be constantly in arrears if we didn't use the online, right? Because we'd be waiting for schools to pay us. I'm sure all of you have the same thing. Even if you have POs, they pay you at their own pace, whatever that. It's not like it's not like a real business where you can call them up like it's business. It just is what it is. So, this way, you get an immediate gratification. So I think everybody on this call already knows that. But it certainly represents well above 50% of our gross revenue, what we do online.
So another observation that we didn't necessarily talk about previously, but your stores that are set up, they're pretty regimented in the number of items, the number of choices that are offered, and you actually have an internal team that does only that. So in other words,
that's correct.
You don't have an individual rep who's deciding I'm going to add 872 items in the store. You have some pretty regimented internal processes to maintain and build the stores that are going to work, that people are
We have one person, we have one person assigned, which gives her an expertise level. We're doing enough stores that it is a real job. You may not be able to do it. You might have to have someone, kind of being a utility player and doing multiple positions, depending on how many stores you're doing currently. But we're doing, literally a couple thousand a year. So with those numbers, it's truly a full-time job. So we have full-time artists. We have all those things that are all kind of work together to put together professional-looking stores. But more importantly, we know it's going to fail. So we tell people, you're going to fail if you do it this way. So, we need you to listen to us. I'm not telling you how to coach your team. Don't tell me how to do this. I'm trying to help you. So and they listen to us. They do. And because you already know the results if they go down that other road. Because we've made those mistakes.
Oh yeah, you've been there.
Yeah, so we've been there. And
Before we, I have couple final questions to ask. Before we do that, I wanted to open it up to anybody that feels brave enough. Any questions that, based upon what Dan just covered, you're just dying to ask? I got to know this.
I got some, Jerry.
Go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Please.
Dan, my name's Mike Trin. I actually out here in Portland,
Hi, Mike.
in Nikeville. So, but the catch is I sell only Adidas. Was really excited about this call. I know you said you stock some of the core items for your store. Are you booking in, the stock pieces, whether it's a Climalite or shorts, and then, dumbing down your stores to just the, basic universal items, and then for a week, and then, whether it's you guys decorating it or contracting out, just
we fully we're decorating everything.
Beautiful, huge.
So
production facility.
So let me, we got a little, the answer is, we're booking, but we're booking with science, and how we're doing it is because I've got a captive, I know who my clients are. I know what color they wear. I know who they are. I have my account managers out meeting with them prior to when we book and show them the new product and say, okay, here's the new product line. You're not obligated to buy it, but what if you were to buy it, which were the products? And we're booking, with that knowledge. So we're sitting down as a team. Yeah, we're sitting down with a team. I know, like, if there's like 600 new quarter zips, as you know, and like, I don't know, God, no, they all look alike to me. So we took them out, and then we figured out, based on what the response was.
Right.
So we booked the one that we knew was going to be universal, and then we got to, you can't book everything, as you know.
No, because the new stuff is coming now. I mean,
right.
for 3 years, been selling Adidas for 6 years. Actually, used to work with one of your former employees, Lou, out here.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Very familiar with the Adidas business and their model, and our rep out here, none of his dealers book. I mean, it drives him insane, but really none of them book any product, and that's just how they operate. Including
we're booking, we're booking, large amounts, frankly. Like we're booking, a lot of football shoes, et cetera. Oh, it does, because like I'll give you a great, for example. We're in a little different space than you guys are. We booked 100. We took 100% of the new hockey travel suits. We have them all. We took them all because we knew we had them sold.
And now you're gonna be the go-to. Now everybody's gonna call you because they need all the hockey teams.
We got them all sold. The thing is, there weren't that many, so we took them all, and we knew we had them all sold. Because one of the things we did, and if you guys are in a hockey, anybody on this call is in a hockey area, there's these hockey programs that have 1,800 kids in them. It's absurd, and they'll spend $100 on a travel suit for a 6-year-old that's going to grow before they get. So we had to limit who we could. Don't sound arrogant, but we kind of limit because we knew we couldn't get the product. So we signed, 4 of the biggest hockey groups out here because hockey, for whatever reason, is the one sport that the kids want to wear, what the pros wear, and so that's been a big deal, and we're doing those all online as well. We're capturing all that revenue online.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah. Can you, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, this is Craig from Top Tier. We're actually in New Jersey. We're actually hockey guys, so it's funny you're mentioning that.
Yeah.
So I guess just on a apparel point first. So you have the Adidas warm-ups that are hockey warm-ups that the NHL guys are wearing now?
We do, yeah. So we basically grabbed them all. But you got to have the guts to do it because now you're stuck with them, right? If you take them, you got to sell them. But we knew we had a lot of them pre-sold. And you're in a good area too. Like we got prep schools, we got college. The other thing, they kind of transcended. Not to get off the track here for people that aren't interested in Adidas, but they kind of transcended hockey. So we have some of our college baseball teams using it as well. They liked it enough that this is great. It's better than a travel suit you had. So we're going to use this as our travel suit.
Right. Okay, great. And then a question about, with the team stores. I don't know if you or anybody else does this, but how do you handle the all the processing fees and the credit card fees? Do you ever pass it on to the customers?
We always do. We build it right in. And so look, this is what it costs. If you want the service, support, and reliability that we provide, it's not free. I could bury the cost if you want me to, but in reality, you're going to pay it either way. So I was just be honest, give you full disclosure, and that's what it is.
Okay, so
it costs us money.
You don't build it into the cost. You then add at the end as a percent or a dollar figure?
I do. Correct.
Okay.
They're very upfront with every fee.
Okay.
So I don't have any trouble doing that because I said, look, this is what it costs for us to deliver what you expect. If you want reliable service support, deliver on time, it right the first time, and all those things, it will cost money to do that. We have to pay, they're sitting on the Amazon.com platform, they're doing all that kind of stuff. You're getting security, you're getting all the good things that we're providing. You don't have to worry about if I give you my credit card. God, some of the vendors we compete against, they've got a desktop that an 8-year-old could break into, and they're collecting all their orders with your credit card. Good luck with that. I'm serious.
Let me go back full circle to the kind of overarching idea which you established up front. Working top down. Decision was made. We can be in the product business and therefore compete on price, and you'll never win. Especially in this day and age with the ubiquity of products available, always cheaper online. I think it's a very common mistake that a lot of people make where they don't make the fundamental decision. If I'm going to differentiate myself, I'm not going to do it on the products I sell. I better create another differentiating factor, which leads to you being very upfront and telling your clients, we deliver great service, we have a great reputation, you have a terrific referral list, reference list that can back that up, no doubt about it. But also as part of that, you say, and this is the cost of the service that we provide right up front. You don't try and hide it.
Not anything. I'm not apologizing for it either. It is what it is, So but in the end, and I already know I can qualify somebody in 2 seconds, just like you can. I'm sure. If they start asking me about product and if they ask me about product and price, I already know they're never going to partner with us.
That's right.
We're not in the transactional business. I tell people right up front, if you're looking for a transactional partner, that's great. That's your choice, but that's not what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for someone to partner with you and help you and support you and, help you with fundraising and all the other things you can do via, Jerry's platform has really been enhanced significantly with those kinds of things. I don't know if you've taken advantage of that, but we do a lot of stuff as far as, helping, booster groups or whatever it happens to be with fundraising. And now it's easy from an accounting standpoint on the back end where you used to have to do it on a manual basis. You don't have to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a whole bunch of things that we're doing. So, we're trying to provide this kind of full service experience for people. And there's a whole lot more to it than that. I meet regularly with whoever the most senior person is there, without the sales, without the account manager, get feedback, coach your people, all that kind of stuff. It's all easier said than done because you kind of just have to set up and do it. But I think once you get in the groove of doing that kind of stuff, you kind of flip your image in the marketplace. And I guarantee you, everybody on this call can tell me who the crappy vendors are in their area. That's where your gold is, because those are the easiest ones to get.
Right.
It really is. And that's,
anybody have any other questions while we have Dan in captive audience?
Jerry, I have a question.
Sure.
Shoot.
So Dan, just dealing with Adidas, especially this last year where they did the big changeover and, it was very difficult to get some of their basic staple products back in the early spring.
Yep.
When you're making big decisions like that, like all the shoes and things, how are you with your web stores dealing with it when you get to the end of a product season and you can no longer get any more, or you're either left with a bunch of inventory you didn't sell, or you're coming way short and you've made sales that now you can't fill? Can you address that?
Yeah, sure. Well, that's one of the big, number one is shorter term websites, because that mitigates a lot of that for one. Without question, we're always going to be, and I don't care who it is, whoever you're partnering with, Nike, Adidas, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be those inventory issues. But our people are coached to make sure they're going on. If you see 17 smalls, don't put smalls. We'll take sizes off websites, for example. So you either got to get a medium or you get nothing, or large or whatever it happens to be. I don't want to say it's a retail model, but in the end, I'll give a great, for example. So we're doing this national camp. There was Nike. We just stole them away from Nike. It says National Summer Sports Camps. And we told them right up front, this is going to evolve every single week, because he wants to run. We're basically running websites every week for these camps, and it's going to evolve. There might not be any size 7 shoes one week. There might not be any size 8.5. That's just the way it's going to be. It's almost like that East Bay model where you get what you get. That may not answer your question directly, but what we're trying to do is coaching our people on a very consistent basis, and they know, because they're all pretty well tenured at this point, that get the stuff off there that we can't get. And the rare occasional thing, if you run it short enough, you won't run into that issue as often. Yeah, we're trying to sell what we have without question. We're booking the staple items for sure, right? And we're trying to sell that stuff without no question whatsoever. But you can't just you can't book enough to make the websites interesting. So you're going to always be at the mercy of what you want, what you're at once type of business. But the shorter the windows you work with, the less the risk is in being able to deliver that stuff. Yeah, we got back order stuff like everybody else. There's no question. But I would say in general and on the whole, it's not a heck of a lot. It's a small percentage of our orders that have back orders.
So Dan, I just had someone send in a question that said, okay, you talked a lot about the sales process, first meeting, orienting to service, not product. Someone wanted to know, how do you actually prospect in the first place?
Well, I developed a kind of an interest generating email, and then which is it's evolved over time, obviously, because it's not the same story as I was telling 10 years ago.
Right.
Then I tell them in the email, I'm going to call you, and part of prospecting and really is just part of doing it. A lot of people just don't have the guts to do it. Probably the hardest thing to do is pick up that heavy phone receiver and start making calls. But once you do it, and my background had been in really in selling much bigger engagements than what we do here. So I just didn't care, and I was comfortable in doing it. So you got to find someone that's comfortable in making those calls, and someone who if they can make that connection. If you do connect back to an AD or a VP of Finance or whoever it's going to be, that you can have that conversation and get them to meet with you. And that's how I did it.
follow up, because I think
Yeah.
you nailed it, certainly. We've talked a lot about sales psychology and the sales mindset. I think the second part where and I hear this a lot, well, I made a phone call, I reached out with an email, I didn't hear anything back, which the individual projects the expectation onto their prospect that it's now their job to do something to give their business to you. So tell me how you fill that gap in between. I think I know.
Well, and I have a consistent. I just do it consistently. So if I know, like, for example, now it's a lot different, right? Because a lot of people have agreements and all that kind of stuff. So I know when their agreements are. So I'm contacting them. I just put it in my calendar. I know their agreement is going to be 3 months, 9 months, whatever it is. I just put it in my calendar. I don't have to be a genius to figure it out. And I just contact them and write down a couple of notes, whether you use the Salesforce or whatever you use for your contact stuff, and call and say, hey, we talked on April 6th and we discussed this. It's not that hard, and that's what it comes down to. Honest to God, I told you, I'm not that smart. It's just a matter of but I don't quit. And I think you can get a long way without quitting.
You're going to become a nag, and you're going to bother. So
I don't care. I got all the friends I need. I'm not even taking applications for friends. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm trying to find people we can partner with. So if they don't want to be a friend, that's fine. I don't really care. When it comes to it, doesn't matter. As long as you keep it on a professional basis, and you're trying to move down the road to partnering with somebody. And we use that word all the time, and it's because it's true. And I think it's not hokey sales crap. If you talk to any of the people from the macro level, meaning the people in administrative roles that we work with, they'll all tell you we partner with. We'll help them with anything we possibly can, and that's how you get sticky with them, and they're less likely to ever leave it. It's how I found out about what BSN's offering. They're coming to me and telling me this is what they're offering us.
Right.
And if you have that relationship, then they will. And if they don't, then you're going to get your pants pulled down, and they're going to leave, and you're not going to know why.
So I'm going to ask a reminder. We're going to wrap this up in about 5 minutes, maybe 10.
Good.
Anyone that has a question of Dan, you can certainly use your microphone, or also, if you feel more comfortable, just fill out a chat bot, upper right corner where the window box is. Just shoot a chat, and I'll ask the question of Dan. So anybody else have a question?
I have one more question. Just we were talking about partnering. Do you got anybody do any kind of the fundraising where you kick back to the organization and either percent or an referral?
We do it all the time. So we were doing that when we were doing it manually. We kind of locked in on that a long time ago. We locked in on that before we knew Jerry. We were doing it with RTG.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always looking for ways, and I think it just makes sense, right? We're always looking for ways to get sticky with these people, right? The more stuff that they get reliant on you to do, then the more likely is they're never going to leave you. And I think we've proven that model, because we've got probably, let's say, 30 of our partners that are on their third 5-year agreement with us. And we're only working with 5-year agreements. They're always pushing back on that. And I've got some strategy around that. We could talk about, probably not this forum, but of how we've got them to commit to 5 years at a time. But, and once you take them off the market for 15 years, they're probably not going to leave you.
In fact, someone just sent in a chat question on that said, "What does a boilerplate contract look like?" Of course, you're not going to get into the details of.
No, there's multiple components, right? It depends who it is. There's a whole lot of different things, but the net of it is now. Frankly, when I first started doing this, we were given about a 6% return, nothing up front, and that was about it.
Right.
Now it's the game has changed completely, as everybody in this call knows. But so now there's an upfront stipend, there's a return on investment component. There's in the college agreements, which we have quite a few of. There's achievement bonuses like NCAA tournament qualification, coach of the year kind of stuff. And we've had teams, some of our D2 teams around here have won national championships. So there's a component there. So it kind of. I basically wrote the contract. I kind of took and pulled out the Adidas contract back 10 years ago because I didn't have anybody to do it. I actually took the UMass agreement, which was about 40 pages long, and I pared it down to like 4 pages of English and more or less turned it into, something more palatable at the level that we're working at, which is D2, D3, and, high school, college kind of thing, high school, prep school kind of thing. So, but those are the main components of the agreement. And, people are much more savvy today than they were 10 years ago or 5 years ago even. Even our customers are sending in RFPs now because when they come to the end, we're retaining them, but they're grinding us for more because the BSNs are out there.
Right.
BSN doesn't have a solution except for throw money at it.
Throw money at it.
And when you're a $1 billion company, you got more money to throw than we do. We don't, and probably anybody in this call has. I mean, I'm sure. So if you play the money game, you're going to lose.
A follow-up question to that just came in and said, and the question is, okay, sounds great. How do I get the whole shebang? How do I get a whole college, a whole charter school?
Yeah, you got to go. You just stay away from. Do not talk to coaches, and I know that's going to be what I said earlier. They can't make a decision by a waste paper basket for the school. They have zero authority. So if you're chasing them, you're chasing the wrong person. You get all the meetings you want. You can talk to them not a doomsday, but they're never going to help you in relation to getting a macro decision. You need to find who the person is, whether it's the principal at a charter school, whether it's the AD at a charter school, or whatever it happens to be, or if you're below the AD level, you're never going to get a macro agreement. You're never going to. So you need someone that can drive the process, that's going to tell everybody, this is what we're going to do. I can give you some great, for examples. Basketball has always been our nemesis because, Nike's owned basketball, right, up till now for sure.
Right.
And one of my favorite things that ever happened was I was at a meeting at one of the colleges, and the basketball coach is whining as usual. And finally the AD goes, I'm not going to make a decision based on what you think is good for your 12 kids. This is what's good for the institution. Fill out the form. And that was the end of it. It was awesome because that's the way you have to find that woman or guy that's willing to say, okay, I'm going to make a decision based on what's good for us as a whole, as opposed to these individual people that all have friends that all buy from their buddies because you give them a gym bag or a pair of sneakers or something, and they're going to buy from. So you need to find the people that are looking for that are willing to and are able to make a macro decision. And if they're not, if they start asking about pricing and product and all that kind of crap, they're never going to make that decision.
Yep. They're wasting your time. Right.
We talk about brand and identity protection. We talk about all this stuff. We build them style guides. We do all that stuff. We teach them how to build a brand, which everyone wants to do. Around here, it's very competitive because the kids that are good high school athletes around here, the prep schools are in trying to vulture. You probably don't have. We have 260 prep schools in New England, so you don't have that. I know that. But there's 260 prep schools looking to grab your best kids. So they're trying to build a brand. They're building a brand. The high schools are building. Everybody's building a brand image now. It's almost like the college environment because what the prep schools are doing here.
Interesting. All right. So I have 3 other follow-up questions that came in through chat. Number one, talk a little bit more about fundraising. And I'm going to have 2 parts to that question. Number one part is, how do you do it? Do you do you negotiate a flat rate for total number of items sold, or are you taking it down? I'm going to give you $2 on this item, $5 on that item. We assist them in making it. So we have an agreement with everybody. So we have an agreed upon pricing schedule with them. So that's their price, right? Down to the finish too. I publish to our partners. We publish what our finishing costs are. If you do this many shirts at one color, this many shirts at 2 colors, here's your cost. If you do embroidery, here's your cost. So they know exactly what the cost is, and then we take and we add whatever they want to add to it. But we try to temper that with, if you set it to a certain amount, you're not going to be able to sell any, right? And we just give them the delta. So if we sell a sweatshirt, if they buy, you make it simple math, they buy a sweatshirt for $40 and we sell it online for $50, we're going to cut them a check for $10. The other part is they're going to get a return on investment piece of that too. So they almost a double dip piece for them, right? Because within their agreement, there's a return on investment component. And then second part of that question was, how often is it money that's going out of your revenue back to your client, and how much does the vendor rebate programs play into it?
I guess to clarify that one, Jerry was like,
"Oh, you could divulge who you were."
I've worked with several schools myself, like all school deals, and Adidas, have an agreement with the dealer, like, hey, you're signed up. Okay, all your sports will give you $15K in promo per year or something along those lines. I was curious, is Champion's Choice, are you giving kickbacks and promo on top of what the manufacturer, whether it's Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, on top of what they are?
No, only if they're doing a fundraising, right? So obviously, in promo dollars is in promo dollars, which is 100% of the retail cost. If they're doing fundraising, we're giving them whatever the cash delta is. So if they buy it, we sell it to them for 40 and they sell it for 50, we're cutting them a rebate check for $10 of real dollars.
It's always that fine line of having the people look online like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend $55 for a hoodie, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, and that's why we got to temper it, though. You got to coach them through it because they don't know how. They'll try to make a zillion bucks, and we have some guys that are selling stuff at full retail without question and making money on it. But I got one prep school that does that on a regular, at a very consistent basis, and they're making the full
yeah,
they're making the full delta.
Decorated with their logo. I mean, they're not going to be able to get it anywhere else.
Right, that's true.
Dan, you might not even know this, but we've been working a lot with your counterpart lately, and I'm going to slip in a little bit of a FYI for everybody that's on this call. But about 2.5 months ago, we did launch a new feature where on a product-by-product basis, you can actually go in and actually track the rebate down to a product level for every item. When you set up any store that does that, you can negotiate whether you're going to give back on one item or next. But it actually, when you set that up in the TUO platform, it does produce at the end of the store a rebate report that breaks down all of that for you. So I just wanted to.
I am aware of that, actually. Yeah.
Most people aren't, and it's shame on us for not letting them know. So I thought I needed to get that. Another question that just came in was, what's your timing on what they call a flasher? Let's say a store that's set up end of the year inventory. Not a typical, you've mentioned a typical client store, which is a long lead time. So I've set up a store, it's open for 10 days, 2 weeks. It's a flash store, we'll call it that. How quickly do you fulfill when you set up?
3 weeks. And we literally track this. Like, there's one of the, again, if you're looking at that whole, customer service wrapper that we provide with, so we've delivered literally 100% of our orders within 3 weeks last year. But that's all back to managing that process. But the advantage we have is, some of you have and some of you don't. We're controlling the process as far as, so we're doing all the, we're doing screening embroidery, we're running multiple shifts, we have multiple stations, we have our own numbering machines, we've got all those kinds of things, and enough people, and we have really good people working. Almost all the people working finishing for us, believe it or not, are college graduates. So we're not hiring kids. We're paying them, we're paying them like real wages, et cetera. But we're not hiring kids that work at a grocery store after school. They come here. That's not the model of what we're using. I'm not saying it's good or right or wrong, but that's just not what we're using.
One quick question that relates to what you just said, Dan, is once it's finished, and are you shipping individually, and is your shipping rate on TUO like a set amount? Are you going USPS, UPS, FedEx, and are they going bulk? Or are they going straight to the person?
I mean, the high percentage of what we're doing, frankly, is we're delivering to the school because it's team orders. So we're taking them and just delivering them packaged. But back to the fundraising point, they're not going to the schools. So we're typically just charging a flat fee of like $12 UPS.
Got it.
And then we're genning, which sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, depending on how heavy it is. Believe me, Massachusetts is probably the most onerous state in the planet to work in. It costs us more to ship. It costs us more to ship within Massachusetts than it does if I ship something to California. Right. So it's absurd.
Win some and you lose some, depending on the size of the order.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. We win and lose. I'm happy to break even on shipping. To be honest with you, I don't need it to be a profit center. But what Jerry has done, and I think we were actually brought this to you, Jerry, beforehand. Because we were trying to find a way to be able to feed into UPS, and they actually did this. And if you changed, because we do have some of these fundraising orders that have 100 or 200 orders, and you don't want to have someone sitting there typing in 200 addresses. You can do it, which we were, but it's not that fun. So, now the feed makes it easy.
3.5 years ago, when we first started working together, and Dan and I were getting to know each other, that was the first request that you made was, you know what?
Right.
I need for TUO to figure out how to integrate with my WorldShip account. Right. It was actually one of the first integration solutions we developed. Since then, we have all versions of UPS and ShipStation integration as well. So anyone doing ShipStation, probably 70% of our online stores, even the bulk stores, are given the option, bulk or shipping. When given the option for an individual shopper, more often than not, they'll choose shipping. So if you have that combined with an integration of a ShipStation or UPS solution, it really does make it makes the process run much smoother.
Oh, it definitely does. There's no question. And so, and again, we're not focusing on it as a profit center. So for the most part, I'm breaking even at worst case, and it just works.
All right. So we're going to wrap up. Does anybody else have any follow-up questions for Dan? Because the promise to him is if we get over an hour, then I have to pay him. and I'm certainly not willing to do that.
You're going to pay one way or the other.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Because the words were coming out of my mouth. I understand.
Yeah.
Anybody dying to know something? Question. How do you do this? Tell me about that. And last 2, 3. All right, I'm going to end with this then, if you don't mind. If you do, in fact, have any follow-up questions, you can send them to me. We'll ask politely if Dan wants to make himself available to answer them. But I'm going to ask a tricky question at the end. So we've talked a lot about the past, how we got here today. A lot of the folks on this call are exactly at the stage you were at a year ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago. A lot of change has taken place in the last 5, 6, 7 years. As you look ahead the next 3, 5 years, what do you think are A, the biggest opportunities for all of us on this call, including your company, and B, the biggest threat?
Well, be simple, right? I think it's, BSN is pretty much everywhere, and they still got, for whatever reason, it's still the biggest brand. So that's not going to change in the U.S. anytime soon, if ever, right?
Well,
so,
I have a different point of view on that, but
yeah. Well, I don't think it's going to change. I mean, that's a big shift because their lead is so, although look how far under, if anybody's selling Under Armour, but look how far Under Armour's fallen in a relatively short span of time. So things do change without question. And Adidas is growing, it's astronomically versus, Nike is actually shrinking a little bit and Under Armour shrunk significantly. But anyway, I'm seeing, we got to shift. We've got to make an adjustment, right? And we had a company meeting yesterday. I was talking about this to our group as a whole. Is if what you're doing, and if in fact we're going to be competing against people who are going to come in and buy the business, then it's not going to be good business for us. Right. If you're not making margin on it, we got to find something else. So I think some of these things that we're talking about doing is as simple as shoes to these charter schools and things of that nature. But we're going to have to continue to evolve. There's no question. And you can only wrap it with service so much, and then at some point, if they're willing to give them hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's at some point people are going to make a financial decision. I know that. Right. There's no way around it. So we're focusing on, we're talking about it now, just kind of evolving. We found one thing with charter schools, but I think there's going to be more than that. I think this hockey thing is going to be significant. But if you're not with Adidas, I think it's probably not going to be a winner for you, because I think it's very difficult to compete in the hockey world if you're not with the brand. It never mattered with the NFL, it never mattered with the NBA, it never mattered with MLS or anybody else. It really we got zero traction out of that. But these hockey guys are crazy about the stuff. I don't care. They wanted to spend that money, great. But I think you're gonna, if you're not doing agreements, you need to, because if not, someone's going to go in and take those. If you're doing teams, someone's going to go in and get those teams sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. And so I think that's probably where this is moving completely. Everybody's going to be under some kind of agreement. If they're not, they're stupid, because they're leaving a whole bunch of money on the table. And most of them are clearly not over budgeted on athletics, unless you're in a couple of crazy places like Texas and maybe, some places in Florida. But for the most part, no one's overfunding athletics. So, I think that's, you're going to have to figure out the top-down approach and figure out how to make that work. And it may be the people on this call that are going to have to do it. If you're going to rely on, junior people in the field to get people over the goal line, you're probably not going to be successful, because when it just is what it is. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not really afraid of your 25-year-old kids competing against me telling that story. So, it just, it just is what it is, right? Because I'm going to keep putting potholes in a way they can't see. I'm doing it. I do it to BSN every single day, and they've never figured out what I'm doing. So,
all right, so
Jerry, there was a question on the chat thing for Dan from somebody else. The last question.
Let's see. I don't see it. I got
from Sean Burns to everyone.
Sean
at 9:44. If the school organization has a prime sponsor, Nike, Adidas, etc., and the sponsor isn't issuing new accounts, what's the incentive to do the decoration only?
You don't touch that, right?
When the school has to supply the products, or you just move on in those circumstances?
No interest. If honestly, I don't want to sound arrogant at all. I really don't. But we've told people who wanted to buy football uniforms. So I said, if we can't get an agreement, I had a prep school up here, just wanted football uniforms. I said, love to have that business, but if we're not partnering with you, It doesn't make a lot of sense to what we do, because now, and that's where the discipline comes in. It really does. If you're going to be an organization that, that partners with everybody you work with and works on agreements and grows that way, you have to say no to some stuff you never would want to say no to. And we have. It's, but on the flip side, I've said no to people and they came back and said, okay, we'll partner with you. It literally just happened. This just happened less than 2 months ago at a prep school in Connecticut. He just wanted to do football, and I told him no.
Right.
And now, not only we got the whole prep school, they're buying shoes, they're buying polos, they're buying all the stuff for every member of the student body. So by saying no, I got something I never got I would have got nothing.
Subtle twist to that question. So you can do that because you have obviously a very large client and revenue base. But I'm pretty new.
We don't have a large client base. We don't. We have 115 clients. That's it.
Okay, but I just started out. I'm just trying to forge my way and establish myself in the team sector, and it sounds great.
Yep.
Great statement, but
sure.
Sorry, Dan, I can't do that because I need every order I can.
Well, I'll flip that back. Was when I started doing that, we were in a corner store of about 400 square feet.
That's right.
So, and that's when and we were nobody. Adidas was at the bottom of the barrel in a corner store with 400 square feet. So that's not necessarily true. It's easy to say that, and I'm not, but at some point, you got to suck it up and go do it. I mean, I'm sure everybody on this call has some background in sports. So, at some point, it's only at some point, if you're not trying it, you don't know the answer.
Well, you're also establishing lowest common denominator for your brand, what you're willing to do.
Right.
Once you do that, you've already set the terms with anybody. They can take advantage of you.
You're done forever.
Done forever.
Right.
Couldn't agree more. So I appreciate everyone's, Dan, thank you, sincerely.
No problem.
If anybody thought this was or was not helpful, feel free to shoot an email to me after this call if you want us to do more of these. It's a little bit of an experiment in this case. But I thought, you know what? We all talk about the same issues all from different angles and perspectives. But I love the fact that you were so willing to openly share a lot of the info. I just got another chat came in. So let's see if I can find it. Nope, already got that one. I don't actually see it. We do have to wrap up. So whomever sent that question in, if you want to forward it to me, Jerry at teamuniformmotors.com, I'll get it in Dan's hand. If Dan decides he wants to answer the question, by the way, he asked me to say this. His billable rate is $1,500 an hour. Is that not?
Was that? I'm also an anesthesiologist.
Hey, thanks for your time.
So yeah,
no, I appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun, and the reason I really wanted Dan to do this is because Dan is the most honest, straightforward, straight shooter person that I think I've met in a long time, which is a lot of the reason why I think we have such a great partnership together.
I agree. We do have a good we have a good partnership, and we're approached all the time by other vendors, and Adidas tries to actually push us on the road to another vendor. And where that's never going to happen for a lot of different reasons, but
by the way,
we're doing well.
That's my BSN comment.
Yep.
With $35 million in funding, I think there's going to be another directed-team offering pretty soon, but we'll cover that some other time.
Right. I mean, there's no question. There's no question. This is not going to stay status quo. That's for sure. You look at all the small Nike vendors that BSN is basically squeezed out of the business.
Is that model going to implode at some point, whether it's 5, 10, 15 years, their model? I mean, now they're
let me answer it this way. All models implode.
Yeah.
So I worked in the ad business for 30 years. Sears was a client of ours. I also worked with Walmart. It wasn't 15 years ago, and Walmart was going to own the world. Walmart killed everybody. They killed the retail sector.
Yes.
All right. What's happening now? Walmart potentially will either be sold or never in bankruptcy, but potentially they've reached the peak. Their shares are dropping precipitously. Who would have thunk 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that this company that everyone was making fun of could disrupt a business model of Walmart?
Right.
So we ain't seen nothing yet, in my humble opinion. We're going to see new business models in the next 2 or 3 years you've never seen before. From my vantage point, and I know that they asked the question of Dan, I think the biggest disruptor for all of us on this call is the directed team, because there are so many stakeholders involved. The vendors, certain technology providers, the BSN Nike partnership, But I think that everyone's stepping back and going, look, we're not going to give all this $1 billion to allow a company like BSN to own such a huge share of the market. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to dive in. I'm going to start to get my piece. So I think we haven't even begun to see the disruption that's going to start to take place in the next 3-5 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question. I mean, and I'm the, obviously I don't have the vision of what's going to occur, but in reality, all the things Jerry said are true. And the net of it is, I mean, BSN is going to keep going out there, and they'll eat their own children. They're out there buying up their own Nike accounts too. Yep. So they're out there just undercutting people that already have agreements with Nike with other smaller vendors. Yep. So, and they're going to, and they can do it. They can look at them throwing $100,000 at our accounts. It doesn't matter. If they want it. No, they're not going to be profitable. They're working on minuscule margins because they're giving so much away. But in the end, they're trying to hurt us. And, you know, I get it. And, you know, they you know, not bragging, it's just fact. They have not beaten us a single time because they're telling a different story. And as long as you can keep the story the way you want it, if you go up against them product for product, you're going to lose every time. You're never going to beat them.
We're going to wrap it up. Thank you all for attending. If you do, in fact, have any follow-up questions, I'll be happy to be the facilitator. Forward them to Dan. We put our 30% markup on top of his $1,500.
There you go.
And then Dan,
all right. Well, appreciate it. Appreciate everybody listening.
Dan doesn't know our little secret, but those who've logged in on the viewable screen, just want to actually end the meeting with this particular picture.
Right. Hey, it's not me in the diaper, is it?
No, it's not you in the diaper. Very similar to that, though. All right. Thank you all for joining. And
Thank you
again, Dan. I greatly appreciate it.
All right. Good talking to everybody. All right. Bye-bye.